Hello, my name is Melissa Davis, and I'm the Curriculum Director for the Herman School Department located in Central Maine. My policy analysis focuses on the impact that Maine's teacher evaluation law has had on my school district's teacher evaluation policy. Before I delve into the state and district policy, I want to provide you with some context. Maine's law did not originate in our state. It was derived from Obama's Race to the Top application. Race to the Top offered approximately $4.5 billion in competitive grant funds. States were allowed to apply for the grant, but not all states were guaranteed funding. Maine applied for the grant, but they were denied. They did, however, implement 60% of the grant's requirements. As a state, Maine adopted the teacher effectiveness requirements as outlined in the grant. Those were adopted in 2011 and then revised again in 2019. The original adoption of the 2011 Chapter 508, the Educator Effectiveness Law, included value-added measures. Value-added measures, in layman's terms, are using student scores on standardized assessments as a component of the teacher evaluation process. Herman School Department's policy uses a standards-based evaluation criteria. We use an established protocol for all evaluations, which includes a pre-conference, evaluation, and conference. We have a specific evaluation cycle that outlines when all teachers and all staff will be evaluated. Feedback measures are embedded within the process as well, and there is also an appeal process. So if a teacher is not happy with the results of their evaluation, or they feel that an evaluator has left out a critical aspect, they are able to appeal. That appeal needs to come in a written form and is attached to the teacher's evaluation. All teacher evaluations are maintained in the central office in the teacher's individual folder, and they remain confidential. In addition, the policy includes value-added measures. Teachers are assessed on how well their students do on standardized assessments. That is one component of the policy. When evaluating this policy, it is first important to look at the problem. So thinking back to the Race to the Top, where all of these laws came from, the biggest problem was students' test scores in the United States. They were stagnant or not growing compared to other similar nations. And it was believed that we did not, in our country, have a rigorous enough teacher evaluation system, and we did not have embedded accountability measures for teachers. Although value-added measures were added to the evaluation process and were cited as being a valuable aspect, there is little evidence that says that value-added measures actually improve student achievement. According to the National Association of School Principals, value-added performance measures do not reflect the content or quality of teachers' instruction. There simply isn't a correlation between value-added measures and improvement of student achievement. Some proven influences on student achievement include poverty, trauma, language development, parental support, and class size, among a list of many other proven influences on student achievement. After examining the evidence on value-added measures, we really have two alternatives to consider in our district when looking at our evaluation policy. The first is to keep the value-added measures in our process, and the second is to eliminate them. When examining both options as a district, we are committed to using the criteria of research-based best practices. We encourage our teachers to use research-based best practices when working with students and as instructional practices. So we really have an obligation to provide them with an evaluation system that is proven to be research-based best practices for evaluating teachers and seeing growth in our students. If we commit to option one, we know that we are going to have some further discussions with our Teachers Association. Our Teachers Association has expressed some concerns over value-added measures in the evaluation process, and that's due to the fact that they know the research behind it. They know that it hasn't been proven as an effective practice. There will also be some increased anxiety and tension among staff, and feelings of inequity among staff as well. There could also be a possible increase in our teacher turnover rate. Some of this anxiety and tension comes from the fact that there are only standardized assessments provided by the state for certain grade levels and content areas. Other teachers have to create their own assessments, and so there are some feelings of inequity among the staff regarding the assessments that we use and create. Option number 2 would certainly eliminate the concerns expressed by the Teachers Association and has the potential to lessen some of the tensions that we're seeing amongst staff regarding evaluation. There are some trade-offs that exist with both options. If we keep the policy the way that it is, we have the benefit that it's already in place and we have colleagues from neighboring districts using similar policies. We would, however, need to develop a more equitable assessment system, and we would need to make some decisions around what exactly we would be using for student data in order to calculate that value-added measure. Option number 2, if we eliminate the value-added measures, we would ease some tensions among staff and create a more equitable system. But we would really need to beef up our professional development for administrators and evaluators and make sure that they have adequate time to perform those in-class observations. There is a plethora of research out there that says that value-added measures does not influence student achievement. Our criteria in analyzing this policy was whether or not we were using practices that were research-based best practices for increasing student achievement. Where it does not increase student achievement and that research is not there to support it, we simply cannot with good conscience decide to keep value-added measures within our policy. So what should we be striving for? John Hattie is an educational researcher who has worked with 300 million students in his studies, and he has looked at what has the biggest impact on student achievement. And believe it or not, the highest on the list is teacher efficacy. It's whether or not a teacher believes that they can impact a child's achievement. This factor is research-based, and it should be embraced and reflected in our current evaluation process. Conclusions and recommendations. Eliminate value-added measures from the evaluation policy. Does not meet our criteria. It is not a research-supported best practice. We'll keep the policy requirements of teacher feedback, standards-based criteria, and our evaluation cycles because we know that those are considered best practices. We'll incorporate annual trainings for our evaluators and new staff and encourage a growth model for our teachers. We know that from the work of Carol Dweck and Mindset that having a growth mindset is important for our students. It's also important for our teachers, and we're going to embrace that model within our evaluation process. And we'll also continue to provide professional development on best practices in teaching and learning. And part of that work will be around increasing teacher efficacy.